unexpected, very, very dangerous.
Get the spidey sense, I was like, oh, something's off.
And I'm just like, man, I'm waiting to hear something,
Get that crowd warmed up. It's Mr. Yahola Tiger.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the 16th episode of the War Cry Podcast. I'm your host, Yahola Tiger. And on this episode, I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spill the beans. But today this episode is about Murrell Home Park in Park Hill, Oklahoma, or Park Hill, America, also known as Tahlequah. Park Hill's not too far from Tahlequah, but it's like its own community. They used to have the seminary out there, the old seminary. But I'm going to talk about Mural Home and some of the things that's happened. Before I do any of that, I'm going to play this video for you now.
The Mural Home in Park Hill holds some ghostly secrets too. Built in 1845 by George Michael Murrell, Mr. Murrell was married to the niece of then Cherokee Principal Chief John Ross.
There have been several things that have happened here that I couldn't explain. My story was after the Ghost Stories event one night, I believe it was in 2008, we were watching the security cameras here in the house, and I saw a black orb, solid black, about the size of a bowling ball, come through the doorway in this room in the parlor, and it walked around the furniture that was in here at just about the pace that a person would walk, and then it walked off the screen. And on that same at the same time, I saw back in the kitchen something that was sitting on the mantle in there, and then just flew off of the side of the screen really quickly, and thought it might be a bird or something that had gone down one of the chimneys in here. But I came in, but the house was already locked up at that time. I opened the house back up to see what it might have been, and there was nothing in here.
I thought I'd play you guys that clip. That clip would do a better job of explaining that house than I ever could. So thought I'd give that to you guys. I posted that on TikTok. But the actual videos on TikTok. What did I say? Tom? Whatever. Anyways. So that house is super haunted. When I was going to like I said, I didn't even say anything. So when I was going to Cherokee camp, man, I am really messing this episode up, and this is crazy. I don't like really editing out my mistakes like sometimes, because like I want you guys to know that I'm like not a robot. So, anyways, I was going to the Cherokee camp at Tahlequah Sequoia growing up, and there was a video that was played to us. It used to be like an old documentary, I believe, or something of that nature, where they did kind of an expose on Mural Home. And the video that was shown to us was basically, so it's that upstairs room, and there was all this furniture, like old-timey furniture, and all of a sudden that old couch started moving across the room. I was like, dang, that's kind of crazy. Or like stuff was moving around in the room, like just barely. It wasn't like it was moving like you guys see it like Conjuring, like where they were like really moving stuff. But no, it was just barely, you could see it just barely moving. And, on the camera, and then all of a sudden, over the course, it just kind of, moved back. So it was weird. It was super kind of strange. I used to do a lot of investigations out there, and I'll tell some of those stories here in a second. But after the very end of one investigation, we were on our way back, and we're driving by the back entrance to that home. And I look over, and there's a man standing underneath the light. So there was this light that, basically a porch light, but it was it was out a little further, like it was kind of out away from the house, but it was like in a kind of like a garage area, I guess. I'm not sure, but there was somebody standing underneath there, and they were just standing there, and you could see where that light, like where the light's behind them, and you can't see, any facial features, but it was just a black shadow. And there's been a lot of things out there. The story that I've always told, different live events, and eventually I'll post that. I think it's on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's in my original before I came on Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation. It was the story that got their attention. Nah, but but I told that story at the Muskogee storytelling over at the Tiger Gallery in Muskogee. Go check that out. But after those stories, like I had family members who would take non-natives out there, and they'd hoot. I was always told not to ever hoot. Um, and that's a story that I'll tell. When I talk about owls, like, yeah, we're gonna do an owl episode. I want to make sure I get some my ducks in a row on that one. I ain't gonna be talking crazy or anything, but that's coming down, and I'll talk about that story at Murrell Home Park. But the stories I'm going to tell you guys are kind of some of the investigations that I had, and also going out there, with my grandpa, and also just in the area around Murrell Home Park. So my grandpa lived about, I'd say, probably 3/4 of a mile from the actual park. And growing up, my dad would, he would live there. He lived there on and off, up until he was older. And there's always strange things going around over there. There was a guy who did practice some things, and he knew a lot of things, and he was really well known in that area. And I'll tell you kind of a creepy story, but my brother, one Halloween, we were getting ready. We were at my grandpa's house and getting ready to kind of go trick or treating in his, because he lived in a U, kind of on down from the Heritage Center, and we're looking around like where's kind of looking for my little brother, and I'm kind of really looking, kind of driving the neighborhood, and all of a sudden he came out of the guy's house, the medicine man, the medicine guy that knew things, came out of his house. My grandpa always said, there's some people out here that you kind of need to be careful of, and he'd say things like that. But it's always around there. That Park Hill area is real creepy though. I had my uncles. I'm gonna tell this story too. In that area, they were outside hanging out with some friends, and the same guy that I'm talking about. They think now, I don't know for sure, but it could have been. But basically, they looked up. He kind of looked up and he says, "Dang, that plane's kind of flying kind of low. Like it's kind of real low." They looked up and kind of off, and kind of off away from the sun. You can see it was a half bird, half man. It had like guy, basically like a half bird, like let's say like a bird to man flying around. So like I said, there's in that area, Park Hill and Mural Home, there's some real creepy stuff out there. So I never learned my lesson. That's one thing that growing up, you got to take some lumps. You got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, is what they say. Nah, just playing, but no, sometimes you just don't listen. My grandpa always would say, don't ever go out to that park by yourself or at night. And you get to like high school age, and you're like, I'm tough. I know people that know things, and you kind of, I'm okay. I'll be all right. We went out there, and I said I was probably in high school, and we walked the trails. And if you go back there, like I said, the park's closed down now. The house, I think they may still do tours, and they may still show it. They may not, but I haven't been out to Tahlequah in a while, which I need to get back over there. But so we were investigating, and we're kind of just looking around, and I'm up with some friends, and it's a bunch of us, and this is the same time I'm talking about the shadow guy, and I'm sure we have these really, we went and bought these really bright flashlights where like you could kind of see, and they pierce the darkness, and we're kind of walking, and we get to this little camp, and you could sit down and kind of hang out by a fire. It's real old, real old, and kind of hear something like it's walking with us on the trail, like as we're leaving that campfire, and we kind of look around, not really sure, and kind of kept walking, and One thing I did heed my grandpa's advice was I never went up to the highest part. Like I never went into the part where there's no lights. I always got a weird feeling about that. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's something. But anyways, I look behind us, and on down you can kind of see a little shape, and it kind of looked like a cat, but it kind of didn't look like a cat. And I mentioned this on Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation, but I get this spidey sense, and I think it's even in the opening. I get this spidey sense that something's coming or something's around, and I get it in my neck, and I look back and we shine that light real bright right in that direction. And you could see and it looked like something little, like real little, like not a cat, like little, and it was growing as it was getting away, like as it was getting away from the light. And that's happened a few times going out there. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. And, one thing that's real creepy about that place is that, like I said, there's a certain spot where you get right in the middle of that park and that trails, and you can't see anything. It's all brush, and you can't even see the moon. I remember we went out there one night. My grandpa, I think the only time that I think we were kind of protected too, but maybe I don't know. I don't want to speak. I wasn't. I was a little guy, but we went out there one night, and you could hear him. Like you could hear. It sounded like almost like it was whispering in your ear, like something was just real light. Real light. And it was like whispering in your ear. And I remember, kind of looking around at all my uncles and cousins, and I was real scared. I was so scared, man. I remember being like frozen with fear because all these different stories you've heard about that. I've heard about that place, and these stories that my uncles have told me and my dad, and but there's always those Cherokees, we call them skilly, kind of ghost, kind of shapeshifter, kind of thing, and I was always real scared of those growing up, and they're out there at Mural Home. I didn't learn my lesson. We went back again, and we went back on Halloween, and I was with I might have been in college at this point, and we had went out there a few times, kind of in between, but I'd go out there and tell stories, and like I said, I always get a little spidey sense, like, hey, it's probably time to go. And so the last time I ever went out there to Murrell Home Park, I was kind of messing around. I had some non-natives with me, and there's a few people. And if you look on Unsolved Mysteries TikTok, and I've told this story, there's people on there that were there in that time, and they remember hearing that. And some details I kind of left out, but I'm gonna tell them here. So we're on the trail, and as you loop around, there's like a bottom trail that kind of does a figure eight, and we're over there by this kind of this overlooking awning type thing. Basically, it's like a little sit down. You can sit down and hang out. If it's too hot out, the sun's out, but obviously it's pitch black outside. And I thought I saw this shadow kind of following us, but it was off to the side, and I vaguely remember it because it was so dark. Like it was just darker than dark. And I didn't think nothing of it. I'm getting goosebumps telling this right now. I hadn't told this part because one thing about trying to tell stories on these different things is I don't want to do too much talking. Like I don't want to hog the air, but on my podcast, I'll hog everything I need. Nah, I'm just playing. But anyways, so I already knew something was kind of following us, and we had our flashlights, and we're making that figure eight back down to where the bridge is, like to when you're about to exit. And if you've been to Mural Home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's basically, if you're facing the trail, it's on the right side. You go on down, you kind of go, it goes kind of up a little hill, and it goes down, and then the water and the creek is right next to there. And we're sitting there, and we're kind of just walking, and I'm feeling real uncomfortable. Real kind of, oh man, something's off. And I turn back and I look, and there's this cat that's following us. And my grandpa always used to say, he'd always say, yeah, things are usually never as they seem. And that's why, if you notice the first episode ever, things are never as they seem. So that this cat was following us, and the cat, I can't remember because the cat wasn't close enough to where we could see color. But another odd thing that I thought was very strange, the cat didn't have eye shine, too. That was another thing that I had, sitting here thinking, didn't have eye shine. And we're basically shining that light on this cat, and as we're walking away from the cat, it seems like it's getting a little taller, a little bit more taller, and it kind of disappears around the curve. And part of me, I'm getting goosebumps telling this because I could see it in my mind. And we get to the end of the trail, and I go, you know what? I'm gonna scare these non-natives. And I do. I also scare myself too. It's I think it was the only time in my life where I have blacked out. I have blacked out because literally my nervous system locked up. Because the feeling that I had, it's never been matched before in anything I've ever done. So I mentioned earlier, you're never supposed to hoot at this park. I hoot once. But nothing. All my friends are like, "Oh my God, hey, chill out, man. Like, hey, well, we're good. I promise you." I go, you're not good enough. I hoot again. And you can feel it. It was like almost like it was like a crescendo almost. And I don't know why it's 3 times, but it was just for 3 times. And I could feel, everyone can feel that, hey, there might, something's off. And I hoot that 3rd time. And what I hear in my mind is what I equate to almost a lion's roar. But it's like, you could feel it in your chest. And I felt it in my chest. And it knocked my nervous system, knocked me silly. Like, knocked me to the point where I don't remember very well. So, next thing I remember, we're on our way back to Muskogee. And we're headed back to Muskogee. And we're headed back to, Muskogee area. And, sometime later, I'm trying to get my wits about me and trying to, figure out, what's going on. And I asked my buddy, I said, man, what happened? Like, last time I remember, man, next thing I remember, I'm in the car. The last thing I remember was this roar. Everybody goes, yeah, it was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And it was like a lion's roar, but it was more like you could feel it. Like it was like a guttural, like it was coming from someone's stomach. Kind of like, whoo, like it was really deep. And I asked friends over the years, and they say it's similar to that. Kind of a funny part of that story. So I'm in the kind of in the back, and I'm doing this as we're walking back to the cars, going across this kind of levee. That's kind of a built up rail that when it floods, because Mural Home would flood sometimes because of the creek, and they built that up so people could still be able to get back to the trails and get to your car if a flash flood ever happened. It's like, I don't know if it's a levee, but anyways. I'm in the back and I'm doing this, and there's people coming off of the bridge. And the first one, everyone, there's still people on the bridge. Second, there's still, everyone's basically off the bridge. And then the third one, everyone's kind of making their way. Well, I'm in the back doing this. Like really the front if we're headed towards cars, but in the back if we were going to the trail. And so I was close to the cars. Thing is kind of funny. We were with 2 really big guys. Like they were both 6'6", big boys, 3 bills plus, big boys. They said that those guys, when they heard that, ran so freaking fast to the car. They were the first ones in the car, and they were the last ones off the bridge. Them boys hoofed it. They got out of there. They was gone. They was not dealing with what was behind them. And they weren't looking back either. and they tell me, they're like, yeah, man, we was to the car and we were yanking on the door because I can't remember if it was like if it was auto locked or if it was like one of those manual locks, but they were yanking on the door and I was basically in between them. They had to like grab me almost. And I asked, I asked some family members, said, what do you think that was? They said, probably could have took your soul. I said, man, what part of you took your mind? Because that's what those things do, is that they feed off those types of things. They feed off your thought, your mind. But that Murrell Home story is probably that's the scariest I've ever been in any type of situation. And I've been in some pretty hairy situations when it comes to people and things like that. And but that was so scary because I remember, like I said, we were headed to Muskogee and they were all telling me like I said, they all would tell me different things that were making the whole puzzle piece, because I think everybody kind of got a piece of the puzzle on that. But I know Mural Home is a super freaky place. Just that whole area in general. I mean, like I said, you got the hauntings, you got the ghosts, you got all types of stuff. You have shadow people out there. There's been times where like I've heard stories, of people seeing shadows out there because allegedly people have hung themselves out there, up on the top part. That's why it's so dark. That's why it's so ominous up there. And people have always, and I have, myself, I've dealt with LP out there. And I know other people have dealt with, kind of come across LP because their trails are out there, out at Mural Home. And that's one thing that's kind of crazy is like, I remember being a kid in the middle of the day and like my grandpa would be out there. I'm telling you, there'd be so many kids out there in the summertime. Man, we'd be wilding out there. And especially if the creek was running, oh my God, we'd be having some crawdads, some bull, and some tap water. We did it, but man, there'd be so many people out there. But like what that place does is it isolates you. It isolates you from the group. And my LP experience was we were playing hide and go seek, and I was at Woodall. Shout out Woodall Wildcats. I saw that they're doing some good things in powerlifting and academics and basketball. So shout out the Woodall Wildcats, man. Coming from a former Wildcat myself. But we were coming back from a field trip, and it was like Earth Day or something, because I remember we had to like bake cookies and stuff, and like, I mean, I waited last minute too. My mom was hot. I was like, "Hey, Mom," at 8:30. I said, "Hey, we need to make cookies." Boy, them cookies were so sorry. They were sorry. Anyways, some of my childhood shenanigans, but we were playing hide and go seek out there, and we're kind of making our way back, and it's kind of the time of the year where it gets kind of dark earlier, and I'd say probably February, maybe-ish, March. I know Earth Day is in March, April, somewhere around there. But it was like right when it was still getting dark at like 6:00. And it was a little chilly outside. I remember that day. Like I said, I remember a lot of things about that day because it was kind of a weird day. Like we were in the Tahlequah Community Center, I think, and it was like had no AC. It was like a 4-H convention, I think. But anyways, I'm out here reminiscing here, guys. Sorry, but so we were playing hide and go seek or tag, and I remember everybody tagging. I remember everybody was kind of tagging, and I ended up getting tagged it. Well, as you get up in the trees, it gets darker. It just gets visibly darker as you get into the thick foliage. And I remember chasing this person, and whatever this was, I'd get like this close, and we'd get back down to the little over awning thing, and I'd get that close, and I'd just whiff on them. And I started noticing that I'm getting further and further away from the trail. I'm in like, you can still see where like little like critter, like little, and I almost say LP, but LP probably was running through there, or going through there, and because it was little trails, it was like little trails that went off different ways, and you could see it. And it started off from the actual trail to like off to these like split off into different trails. It's kind of strange, but that's what they do, is they kind of get you off and kind of lead you off. But I noticed it, and I was like, but I'm not anywhere near the trail. And luckily, I knew where I was at. Like my mind wasn't lost. Like sometimes they get your mind and they get you lost and you don't know. But like, I remember chasing this thing off into this one of the side, kind of going off into the really deep part of the woods, because like the trail goes up, like, so you go past the shed, you go past the bridge, but then you go up past that fire camp that I talked about earlier, and then you go up and around. Well, as you go around, you're getting deeper in the woods. Well, there was an offshoot kind of off as you go around, and it went off into the woods straight back. And the creek kind of goes back that way too. And I realized, I was like, wow, I'm like in the creek. Like I'm not even like, I'm off like way over here. Like the creek was still, I could still see the creek. So what I did is just followed the creek back and got back to where I got on. But I noticed it, and I go back, and they're like, I go back to the bridge, and they're hollering for me. They're yelling my name at the bridge, and they're off in the, like, at the beginning of the trail. They're like, screaming my name, and I'm not, thinking nothing about it. And they're like, hey, you've been gone for like 30, 45 minutes. Like, you've been gone for a while. We haven't been able to find you. And then I thought I was gone 2 seconds. So there's things out there. Like I said, there's shadow people type things out there. It's just all types of. I've heard a story about a time where someone was over. There's a bridge, so adjacent from the park. So if you go all the way down past Mural Home, there's a road, and you take a left. You go back. There's a bridge back there, kind of off to the right of the park. If you're coming from, rest in peace El Chico. But anyways. From El Chico, like you're coming back from Keys, and I've heard stories of a troll back there, kind of underneath that bridge that lives down there. And I'm wondering if that might be what we run into that night. The last time I've been out there at Mural Home. But yeah, man, God, I'm out here living. Y'all got to get a little piece of my childhood, man. Get a little piece of what I've about that, some of that Tahlequah. You know what I mean? So. I appreciate everybody that listens to this podcast. I sometimes, you get some heat. Sometimes you get a little cozy. Too crazy. Get a little extra, food for thought. But I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody listening. You guys can find me on TikTok, One Man Band 918. Facebook, Yahola Tiger. War Cry Podcast page. Just type in War Cry Podcast. It's on there. You'll find it. If you want to add me as a friend on Facebook, make sure you message me. Let me know you listen to the podcast. Also, too, I'm going to ask you what your favorite episode is. You better have it on deck. Better be ready. I'm also still taking stories. So if you have any great stories, or if you have a story that you don't really want to be public with, tell it to me anyways. I'll keep you anonymous. I'll do because like, if you guys notice when I tell stories, sometimes I don't want to tell my family's name, so I'll say a family member or a relative. Like, it will be just that way. So I kind of do not disclose information. So I want to make sure I do that for you too, and protect that, because like I said, some of these things I mention, sometimes you start mentioning names and things like that. People get kind of upset about that. But like I said, I appreciate you guys listening in. Linktree. Will be in the description. YouTube, War Cry Podcast, basically available everywhere, Spotify, Apple. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.